Hello and welcome to our first flip video. This is what your note sheet should start to look like. We are in our first unit doing a pre-algebra review. Please put your name on top of the paper and we're going to incorporate this section title. This is our first video that we have of 1.2 integer review. We're going to start off with multiplying and dividing integers. Please add in the date of today, and we're going to go ahead and get into gear and do some vocabulary. Before we get started, as this is our first video together, I think it's important to remind you that at any time, please pause the video if it's going too quickly for you, so you can catch up, take those notes, and always go back and rewind if you didn't catch what I was saying. Now let's go ahead and start this vocab. The first vocabulary piece we have is natural numbers. They are the same as counting numbers, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. From there, we're going to move into whole numbers. So whole numbers are counting numbers including 0. So just like counting numbers, the only difference is they have 0. The next group we're working with is called integers. So the integers are counting numbers including 0 and the negative of counting numbers. We're going to move into product. So product is the answer to a multiplication problem, and quotient is the answer into a division problem. The last two pieces we're going to discuss are even and odd numbers. These are important as we go through to depend on when we're taking a look at integers. So an even number is a number that can be divided by 2 without a remainder. And an odd number is a number that has a remainder of 1 when divided by 2. Now we're going to head into the key concepts portion of the note sheet. So with this note sheet, the key concepts for our 1.2 notes is identify the result when multiplying or dividing integers. So when multiplying or dividing two integers of the same sign, the result is positive. When the signs are different, the result is going to be negative. When we are multiplying more than two numbers, an even number of negatives results in a positive answer. An odd number of negatives results in a negative answer. So in those key concepts, if we have an even number of negatives, so if we have 2 negatives, if we have 4 negatives, if we have 6 negatives in a particular multiplication problem, then we're taking a look at having a positive answer. When we have an odd number of negatives, that means maybe 1 negative, 3 negatives, 5 negatives rather, those are when we're going to have a negative answer as our result. Again, that's for our odd. So we just covered the key concepts when multiplying or dividing integers. So when multiplying or dividing integers of the same sign, the result was positive. With different signs, we have the result as negative. That's this section up here. And when multiplying two or more numbers, an even number of negatives is a positive answer, and an odd number of negatives is a negative answer. Let's take a look now at doing some examples. So at this point in time, why don't we pause the video and you can try this section on your own. The idea here is to classify the type of number. So you're going to be classifying the -3, the 0, the 7, and the 0.5 or 5/10 into either a natural number, a whole number, an integer, or none of these. It is possible that it could be more than one, so please circle all that apply. We'll go over the answers in class so that you can review your items. Welcome back, and thanks for pausing the video and classifying those four numbers, so -3, 0, 7, and 0.5 or 5/10. It's important for us to take a look at these classifications as they encourage us to look more deeply at the type of numbers that we're working with. So now we're going to do a little bit more with some division and multiplication of the integers, using just the basic pieces of if they are the same sign or if they are different signs. So let's take a look at this here. So in this section over here, we're asked to write the correct integer as an answer. These over here are quotient problems, and these over here are asking for the product. So again, quotient is division and product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Let's take a look at these and get a little more interested in what this looks like. So we're starting with the integers 6 and -6, 3 and -3, and taking a look at the possibilities for their quotient. So if we have -6 divided by 3, we get a -2 because those are opposite signs. Similarly, this next problem down here is if we have a +6 divided by a -3. These are opposite signs, so we should also get a negative answer of -2. On the next problem, we have a -6 divided by -3, giving me the same sign. They are both negatives. This should result in a positive answer of 2, and similarly the same situation down at the bottom. Please try these on the right hand side when we're looking at 4, -4, 6, and -6 in this multiplication set of problems. Pause the video at this time and try these on your own. Again, anytime that we're pausing these, we will have a discussion about the items in class, so we will have you correct and make sure that you get them in your notes accurately. Thanks again for pausing that video and trying those integer problems. We're going to now flip to the back side and take a look at continuing our discussion of integer review with multiplication and division. We're going to add a couple more vocabulary words. Our first vocabulary word is going to be factor. So, a factor is any number being multiplied to form a product. And an operation or operations are math processes like adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, squaring, square rooting, all of those pieces, any type of thing to a power, all of those mathematical processes we can lump together in the idea of an operation. So we're going to use this now in some key concepts that we have coming up. Our key concept we're going to talk about is to identify if the answer is positive or negative. Perhaps now would be good to identify what key concept this is helping us out with. So this is for general steps when we're multiplying or dividing integers. So again, when multiplying or dividing integers, the general steps, these key concepts are no matter what. So the first thing is to identify if the answer is positive or negative. The next thing to do then is to write the sign of the answer if it is negative. When we have a negative answer, we want to write the sign first. If we have a positive answer, we don't actually have to write the plus sign, so we leave it blank. We're also going to compute the operation indicated in order of operations. So if there's multiple operations present, we're going to go and use order of operations. If they're on the same level, like multiplying and dividing are technically on the same level, then you can go from left to right. Okay, let's take a look at some of these examples. So for the first example, we have this here where we're multiplying 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6. Now when we do this, we do have multiple operations even though they are the same operation. So in order of operations, it tells us we want to go from the left side all the way over to the right side and work that direction. Now I also know that multiplication has kind of a neat property in which I can group them because I can commute numbers and move them around, or I can associate them with different numbers and I still end up with the same answer. So multiplication allows me to do some really great things based on these properties of commutative and associative, and we'll go over them shortly in a little more detail, but that's not the focus of this particular lesson. So let's go ahead and take a look at our focus of the lesson and start to group this and how we would multiply these. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 4 is 12. 5 times 6 gives me 30. Multiplying through there, I'm actually going to pause the video a little bit. Multiplying through there, I'm going to take 24 times 30 because I get the 24 from the 2 times the 12. And 24 times 30 is very similar to 24 times 3, and then we extend the 0 on the end. So when I take a look at this, I'll get 720. Now what I'd like you to do is to take a look at the next example. So there are 3 problems coming down the pipeline for you. Okay? The difference that you're going to find with these 3 problems is that some of them have a difference of where the negatives are placed, and in general, your answer will either be 720 or negative 720. It's your job now to try them out and see which works for which problem. Again, we're going to go over these in the course of the next class, so please have these prepared so we can correct them when you're done in class. Pause the video at this time and we'll go over to the next session when you're done. Alright, and welcome back. Thank you for trying these examples over here, here, and down here on your own. I do appreciate that. We'll go over those again in class. At this point in time, I'd like you to focus over on this part right here. And we're going to take a look at these 4 problems down here. So we have 4 division problems that you're taking a look at. The first is negative 35 divided by 5. The next is 50 divided by 5. The following one down here is 32 divided by negative 4. And then we have 7 divided by 63, or rather 63 divided by 7. Excuse me. So when we take a look at these, why don't we do this momentarily? Let's follow the general steps that we wrote up above. So the 1, 2, 3. The first was identify the answer if it's positive or negative. The second was write the sign of the answer if it's negative. And the third was to compute the operation, using order of operations if necessary. So if we take a look at these 4 problems, let's first take a look at the signs. So we have opposite signs, so we're going to have a negative answer. 5 goes into 35 7 times, so negative 35 divided by 5 is going to give me a negative 7 as my answer. Now let's take a look at these next 3, and I'd like you to try these on your own. Please finish the following 3 problems of 50 divided by 5, 32 divided by negative 4, and 63 divided by 7. We'll take a look at these in class. Thank you for listening. Make sure you go back and rewatch any section that you might want to freshen up on, and we will discuss this in our next course. See you then.